Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, switching to my radio voice. As you might be able to tell, I am not home today. I am in Dallas, Texas, and I did not bring an accessory camera, so I'm recording just with the MacBook's camera. And today I have with me Sam Nudelman and Ben Griffioen.
Close. Griffioen. You almost got it.
Griffioen. Okay, thank you. Griffioen. From Firefly, and basically Ben is business development at Firefly, and Sam is marketing and sales development at Firefly. So you're both in charge of getting this distributed, basically.
Yep.
And also, very interesting. I noticed one of you is in Atlanta and the other one is in the Columbus area, which is I live in Atlanta and I've lived in Columbus 3 or 4 times. We go back to Columbus often because my girlfriend's family lives there. So it's just interesting. It's interesting how many insurtechs in Columbus.
So I'm in Columbus, and Ben used to be in Columbus. Before he made the move post-COVID. With everything going on, we actually went completely virtual, which I thank Ben and our other owners for, because it's a great work environment, but allowed Ben to move down south, and I am up here in good old Columbus still. Hub of insurance.
So Ben, what was your move south just like mine, basically to get away from the weather and closer to a better airport?
I wouldn't say the airport played so much into it, but yeah, it was definitely weather. I've got 4 kids, and so it was the idea of being outside more, and then we bought a little bit of land, and so that way we could be outside with our kids all the time. So we weather
is so much better than in Atlanta. Absolutely. For us, we both travel a lot. At least before COVID, we're starting to again. And I was tired of spending half my life in the Detroit airport waiting for a 45-minute flight to Columbus, basically.
Yep.
So we always give the guests the chance of giving the elevator pitch. So what is Firefly?
Sam, I'll take this one if that's all right. So in a nutshell, we consider ourselves to be one of, if not the fastest and easiest ways to get set up with an independent insurance agency. And so specifically, a lot of people would compare us with like aggregators, clusters, networks, franchises. We're certainly not a franchise. But aggregators are generally set out to solve a problem. The problem is to get agents set up, like get carrier appointments for agents. The problem is that once you get the carrier appointment, keeping the appointment can also be equally as difficult because you have to be producing every single year. So the magic of Firefly is that not only do we solve that first problem, that we get agents direct appointments with a lot of carriers, but we also solve the second problem in that we make it so that agents they don't have to worry about keeping the carrier the way that other aggregators do. So that way they can quote and bind with a bunch of different carriers, and they never have to worry about losing carriers for lack of production.
Okay, very, very interesting. So I'm a former marketing rep. Well, we call ourselves sales managers, but the brokers, the agents and brokers call us marketing reps, right? So I was a marketing rep first for Allied, then for American Modern, and in both cases, it was hard to get a contract for an agency, and then once they had it, then we had to badger them for enough business, right? I've never liked that the carriers do that, but they most definitely do that, and I've heard different explanations as to why. So if other aggregators haven't been able to solve this issue, how are you guys doing it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So ultimately, think of it as so what carriers really want, they want profitable business and they want growth. And so the way that Firefly works is we're actually quite picky about who we work with. And so when we approach carriers, a lot of times we'll say, hey, look, do us a favor. Whenever we bring an agent on board, don't be asking us for production from that specific agent, right? Instead, look at all the quoting opportunities you're going to get. And between all of our Firefly agents, you're going to get thousands of opportunities, thousands and thousands and thousands. And if you don't earn the business, that's okay. We're not going to bust your chops about rate, but don't bust our agents' chops on production. And so in exchange, they get lots of opportunities from the Firefly agents.
And you're telling me that carriers are actually listening to don't bog my agents for production.
Well, there are, I mean, don't get me wrong, not every carrier like loves that idea, but then the other big part of it is essentially like, imagine that an agent gets set up under Firefly, right? So if you think of all of Firefly's production, okay, we're not like a typical aggregator, right? So we look and we talk to a carrier, all of our production is, you know, under the Firefly umbrella. So instead of evaluating each individual agent location, when they come to us and talk to Firefly, it's like, oh, look at all this production that Firefly has as an entire entity. And so that way, Tony, if you got set up with Firefly, you don't have specific carriers saying, hey, Tony, you need to write more. Instead, they talk to me or one of my partners and say, hey, how's Firefly looking? Okay, you're looking good, right? And so that way the agents get all the benefits of the direct appointments, they quote, they bind their own business, but they're not having to maintain the relationship with carriers individually. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. And you've got so when you were saying that no requirements per agency once they're in, I was a little skeptical of basically I was expecting to open your website and see basically a few non-standard auto carriers and that's it, right? But no, you've got a solid list. I mean, American Modern, great specialty carrier, ASI, Progressives, property company, a couple of at least a couple of different Berkshire companies, so Guard and Home State, branch out of Columbus, some like very.
We have some other insurtechs as well, like Hippo and Openly. And a lot of the other, you know, larger independents as well throughout the country. So
the lineup is robust.
Yeah, the lineup is really good. State Auto, Nationwide, Kemper, Hartford, and Westfield, Utica. Yeah, you've got a solid lineup of like good carriers. Preferred carriers. That's what I'm trying to. A good lineup of preferred carriers. Okay. Yep. Fantastic. So I've never been an agent, right? I've always been carrier side and then the talent side. But I've worked with agencies as a sales manager, as an underwriter, and as a recruiter. So with all of the with all different aggregator options out there, which is definitely the hardest thing for a new independent agent, right? How do we get appointments? And there's so many options. So the advantage with Firefly is no production requirements with any specific carriers. What is the disadvantage? Is the commission lower? Is it much harder to get in? How do you balance it so that you don't end up with every independent agency, every new independent agency?
That's a totally great question. So in order to work with Firefly, we have one-on-one conversations, and so we don't actually have, I guess the way you might consider like regular recruiters. Okay, we don't outsource it. We don't even hire like a ton of recruiters and say, hey, bring on a bunch of agents and you'll get paid a kickback every time you get recruited, right? They're straight salary people. And when an agent is interested, they fill out an application. On the application, it asks all the questions that we've seen, determines they're the really good indicators on whether or not an agent is successful. If they're an agency owner, we'll take a look at their carrier reports and say, hey, what's your premium versus claims, right? And their loss ratios. And then I and my partners, we're the ones that review the application, and then we will talk with the agents directly. And so we are very, very sincere in the idea of saying we are certainly looking for quality, not quantity, right? And I think Firefly, if you talk to any of us, I mean, Sam included, our whole team, we totally know we are not a fit for all agents. And we frequently will send agents to other aggregators because what I would say is there's plenty of really wonderful aggregators out there. And I think that there's There's some that specialize in really low fees. There's some that specialize in having like the most robust profit sharing opportunities out there. There's others that, that will give you immediate access, right? You don't necessarily get an appointment, but it's a really fast access. And so what we're looking for are agents that can plug into our system without much of a hiccup, right? So we're looking for the agency owners or very successful producers who either way, they can plug into the system and they can take off. But to answer your question, like commissions, like I think the industry standard, if you had to look at everybody out there, I would say the industry standard is probably like an 80% split to the agent, and then the aggregator keeps 20. We typically pay 90 on new business and on renewals. The fees that we have, our upfront fee, I'm happy. It's not that I'm worried about sharing it. I'm totally open with people knowing it, but we're going to increase it in January. So I don't want people to watch the podcast and be like, hey, you guys increased it. But the point is, we're not gouging people. Like if you look at the franchises or others that are, a lot of aggregators are between 10 and 25,000. We are seriously, I would say like we're at a third of the lower end there, right? So our upfront fee is way lower. And then even our monthly fees, we don't make money off of the monthly fees. It covers our quoting system and management system, but it's less than $200 a month, right? And so what we're looking for are the agents, like the top tier agents who can plug in, get all the carriers, you get 90%. We're not gouging you on fees, but we're going to make our money is on tons of growth, right? And so we get agents who plug in and they grow really fast, they grow profitably, and we love them all. Like it is a blast working at Firefly.
Okay, so if I'm an agent or an agency listening, how can I get an idea if I qualify, or let's say I'm an exclusive going to go independent or considering going independent, which is usually who wants to join an aggregator. How do I get an idea if I qualify? Like what are you looking for? Are you looking for my success as back when I was with State Farm or with Allstate, or what are you looking for?
Great question. So I would say the number one thing that we look for is your marketing plan. How are you getting in front of people? So not to like belittle any outlet, like my dad was a farmer's agent, so I respect farmers. I also respect all captive companies, Allstate, State Farm. I think they're all, wonderful. And the agents themselves, I respect the heck out of them. If you can make it work as a captive, you are a champion. But the one, like a great example is Allstate agents, super frequent. They have some sort of, what's the word, co-op, right? Where Allstate will kick in a lot for leads. So I hear frequently that agency owners, they'll spend, tens of thousands of dollars on buying internet leads, right? And then it's all about, churn and burn, just get through these leads, make the sales. And it's really based on new business and not so much on renewal. That's a pretty, that is not a plan that we would be psyched about at Firefly, right? Those typically have lower retention rates, higher losses. We're far more interested in really solid marketing plans where people are quoting, 100 times or more a month, and they're getting like the honestly, the top tier agents, those are the guys who are working with mortgage brokers, real estate agents. They're getting the houses, they're able to package it with the autos. But if an agent is looking at Firefly and thinking, how would I qualify? Your marketing plan is the most important thing, because that will determine, like, honestly, how good is your closing ratio and how profitable is your business. If you're, not that there's anything wrong with this plan, but if you work with buy here, pay here dealerships and you're doing monoline auto from buy here, pay here dealerships, generally speaking, you're going to have a much lower retention ratio and your loss ratios can be much higher, right? Because it is a less profitable line of business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
exactly
like you said with the carrier lineup too, when you're looking at the carrier lineup, you had mentioned like non-standard carriers that that's not like our bread and butter, right? So we're not the shop that has 20 non-standard carrier options for the agent looking to necessarily place a lot of non-standard business.
Okay, so yeah, it really is a play really meant for the agents that are very focused on a very solid marketing plan, and where they can show you, hey Ben, hey Sam, here is where all the business coming from and why it's the type of business, the type of companies that you guys have partnered with do well with the preferred package business.
That's exactly right. And so like if an agent calls Firefly, there's actually a call that I had with an agent yesterday. Super nice guy. his second question was, what do you provide me in terms of leads? And my answer was absolutely nothing. We do not provide leads for you. If you're looking for leads, no hard feelings. Firefly is not a right fit. So for example, if you're coming from a call center environment like Progressive or Epic or something like that, those are great environments. You probably know insurance and how to sell. The problem is when you go out on your own, there's no more leads, right? And Firefly is not going to give them to you. So that would be a really, really poor fit. But then the last thing I would say, Tony, to answer your question, you said, how can an agent know, are you a fit? If you go to our website, which I think you've got pulled up, but on joinfirefly.com, in the top right-hand corner, there's a Grow Your Agency button. You type in your name, your email address. We'll send you an ebook that talks about our fees, our commissions, the carriers that we offer, how does book ownership work, everything. And then right in the ebook, you can schedule a call with me or my counterpart, Bill, and we'll be happy to answer questions for you to determine, is this potentially a fit? Or if not, I know tons of aggregators. If you're not a fit for us, the very least we can do is point you in another direction.
I love the approach. It's very, very similar to my approach over on the recruiting side, and the approach that I learned at Jacobson over where I started recruiting. So I'm looking at the Grow Your Agency section of the website. So
Nice.
so what is the Grow Your Agency section, and what kind of resources are there for the agents that join?
So if you're looking on the Grow Your Agency, honestly, that's kind of like a mini landing page. So on there, it'll give you some very basics about working with Firefly specifically. If you're looking for more like stuff to learn, how do you actually start an independent agency, up at the top of the website, there's a learning center or a knowledge center. I don't know what it's called on. You have it in front of you. I don't have
Learning
it
center, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you click on Learning Center, that's where it'll talk about, questions to ask, like on commissions, and how do you work from home, right? What kind of setup should you have, and what should you look for from direct appointments? We also have a really great YouTube channel. We don't have nearly the subscribers that you guys have, but in that YouTube channel, we talk about like the Modern Agent series, which I think you actually might have seen a link from Sam, but that's where we talk about how do you get more Google reviews, and how do you turn Google reviews into Facebook leads, right? And how do you set up a better Google My Business account? And how do you get live chat set up on your website? We talked about Canopy Connect, which is a great system for agents to use. We're doing a glove box Modern Agent series this week, and credit to Sam, he runs a lot of those, and so you can find those on our YouTube page. So if you're an agent who's thinking about going independent, and like you said, one of the hardest things is figuring out how to get appointments. What aggregator do I work with? Check out the Learning Center, check out the YouTube videos. Whether or not you work with Firefly, agents get a ton of value out of these.
And you can also find that under the Modern Agent section at joinfirefly.com. A lot of our videos, we have full articles that we've written up about some of those modern agent topics as well that you can read, as well as watch those videos, which are also on YouTube. But our whole goal of Modern Agent is to help agents, and not just Firefly, right? It's agents across the industry, to be easier to find, easier to buy from, and easier to work with. Those are the three most important things that we find in helping agents become more modern. And so we're trying to help with different topics in those veins to help agents be right, use more modern technology. And Ben referenced, like, we're doing a session tomorrow with Glovebox, which is a tool, InsurTech tool. We definitely recommend.
I've had them on the podcast, yeah.
I know I think you've had Ryan on there. We're actually going to have Adam, one of the co-founders, Adam Casanelli, on there. So I'm really excited about that, and it's going to help more of our agents and more just agents generally get introduced to something that maybe they don't know about.
Yep, Glovebox was episode 223, so do go check that out. Great episode. And for any agents that have a chance to attend InsurTech Connect or other conferences, look for the guys with the astronaut, and they tend to get a cabana outside instead of a kiosk or whatever. They're a cool group. The YouTube channel, the production quality is fantastic. Is that you, Sam, or do you have a team?
I'm in a lot of the videos, but I do a lot less of the editing of the videos. So Fritz does a lot. Fritz Griffioen, one of our agency owners, he does a lot of the editing of those videos, and I agree, he does a really good job of it.
Because the production quality is definitely very, very, very high. We at the Insurance First YouTube channel, we have tons of videos. That the editing is minimal.
Well, that's tough. Yeah, editing videos is a pain. So I'll let Fritz know. I'll let Fritz know that you give him a hat tip,
yes,
and I'll try to make sure his ego doesn't get too inflated.
please do let him know. Yeah. Okay. So how? So I think we did talk about the pricing, right? It's like an 80-20 cut, and there is a monthly fee.
No, hold on. So real quick, 80-20 is the industry standard. We're at 90. So our
it's a 90-10 cut. Okay, so better than industry standard as of right now. And there is a monthly fee that mostly is just supporting
E&O cost of your management system and rating system. So
yeah, it's like the tech stack, right? Is what we consider it.
I also saw on the website that it's in the frequently asked questions section that it's very easy to separate if they end up deciding later on that it's a 30-day notice and have a happy life. So yeah. that's nice. You're not getting tied to years and years or something super onerous like that. So I am curious how the idea came to be. How what led to Firefly getting started?
That's a great question. And actually, so you've mentioned you've had other aggregators on the podcast, right? And so it's fascinating. I think that there was a huge boom of aggregators in the early 2000s, and Firefly is no different. So it started in 2005 officially, and there were 7 founders who all came from farmers, right? Which is also like super typical, right? It's usually all state farmers. Some captive agent is having a hard time getting appointments, and so in this case, it happened to be like of the 7 founders, one of them was my dad, which is Bill Griffioen, and he was like, he's one of the most humble guys I've met, but I'm happy to sing his praises. In 1992, he won the National Farmers Agent of the Year. Like, he was a legit agent. I think there were like 14,000 agents at the time, and he won the award, right? So he didn't have the biggest book, but he was a really good agent. And at the turn of the century, farmers, you know, as sometimes happens, there were huge rate increases. And my dad thought, man, if I'm going to be staying in insurance, and my sons might be joining me in insurance, would I want them to be with farmers, or would I want them to be independent? And he thought, I'd rather they be independent. And so, believe it or not, as successful as he was as an agent, he really struggled to get appointments. And so he and my brother, and then the 5 other farmers agents, they came together and they formed an independent agency. And at the time, it was just an agency. And they got a little tiny company in Ohio called Salina. They're great. And they were able to leverage that. They grew it, and they were able to leverage it into getting Travelers and Progressive and others, and then just kind of grew their carrier footprint. And the whole point was just to have an independent agency.
So hold on. So they managed to secure Salina, and that was the only appointment for a while?
That's who they started with Salina.
So basically, all they could do was farms.
So they do home and auto, and they do a little, and they do commercial. So
I think Wayne was second, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Like, Wayne was one of the second ones as well. Again, another small mutual company out of Ohio.
Yeah, that's right. Tiny little companies is who they got started with. And so then they were able to grow it. And as you know, Tony, in insurance is a real small world, right? And so when people saw, hey, we know these 7 farmers guys. So naturally, other farmers agents would say, hey, I want in on this. And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. Come on in. You eat what you kill, right? You don't own the agency, but you can own your book. And it actually took like several years before they realized, oh my gosh, we have a service here that we can offer. And so they started a company. It was called First Buckeye, which you can imagine is a terrible name for anybody outside of Ohio. And so when they started, expanding the footprint, it was like, well, we got to get rid of First Buckeye, because I mean, like, one of the first states we went to is Michigan, and you can imagine for marketing purposes that was just a mess. And so we changed our name to IHT, which was also just an awful marketing name. Nobody's going to remember that. So we rebranded again in 2018 to Firefly, and so that's how we came to be today. But getting back to your question, that's how we started.
Yeah, no. So the what was the second name after Buckeye?
Yeah, see, you can't even remember. That was 10 seconds ago. It was IHT. Terrible marketing. Terrible.
Yeah, IHT, and then InsurTech becomes a big thing, and Firefly is a very InsurTech-y name.
Yeah. We love it.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's a good one. I like the branding in general. I like the yellow and black. And you've expanded at this point to, I want to say, like 30 states.
Yeah, I think 34, if I'm not
34
mistaken.
states.
Yeah.
Okay, so are the other few states, and it looks like they're mostly like mountain states: Nevada, California, Florida, New York, and Louisiana. So are those states in progress, or
Not really. I mean, Florida's never going to happen. Like Florida and Louisiana, just look at what's happening right now.
Yeah,
like,
those are a nightmare. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So we have no desire to grow the book and then worry about losing carriers there. California, New York, they're kind of difficult to do business in. So down the road, maybe. Right now, they're not even really on our radar. Colorado, we looked at. We actually had carriers tell us to stay out because of the hail belt. So we thought, hey, we want profitable business, so we'll stay out for a bit.
The other 3 or 4 are very low population.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're not particularly worried about it. So we could grow there eventually, but right now we're kept more than busy enough with the 34 states that we have.
Okay.
Which we're very grateful for.
makes perfect sense. So that's my usual set of questions. And the other thing I usually do is I kind of look at your LinkedIn, and kind of like talk a little bit about where you came from. It looks like you both came from the independent agency space, basically. So you've been in the agency space for the bulk of your careers.
I started with Allstate, one of their dealership programs is how I started it in insurance. So they had the dealership program where like the owner of the dealership, got his son appointed so that they could, have the Allstate agency. And so they brought in a few producers, and after about 3 weeks, I was the lone man standing. So, but it was fun. It was a really good experience to get to kind of help start up that agency, get to work with the captive carrier. I think that gave me a lot of experience. I left there when Quick Insured. So Quick Insured is an insurtech. They partner up with a big mortgage platform that allows them to do their quick quote. So they get a quote within seconds from any lender that clicks the button. The client gets a consent form, and all of a sudden you got a quote from the agency. So I actually worked there for a couple of years as a producer, and again independent. Loved it. Loved selling, and loved helping train our new sales folks. But Firefly was just an awesome opportunity, and I couldn't help but jump ship to go and help more agents start and grow their own independent agencies, because I love to sell, but I'm way more passionate seeing other people succeed and be able to help their families, right, and support their families. I think I get a lot more joy out of that.
I think what you guys are doing is very important. You've been very nice, or glass half full about the exclusive agency model. Personally, and I get it. Your dad came from farmers, so like I get it. I have said it before. I believe that model made a lot of sense back in the day, right? But back before 800 numbers, before online distribution, before what's it called? Before being able to buy insurance on an app. Like nowadays, like my PlayStation offers me insurance every other day, kind of thing, right? So I think the exclusive model doesn't make sense anymore. And yeah, the exclusive carriers, the exclusive agencies do have access to their own internal brokerages, but they get like 5% commission for that. So
right.
And it doesn't count for their bonuses. It doesn't count for anything. So I foresee more and more agencies going independent, and Nationwide, right, went independent, like made everybody independent.
Definitely.
If I had to guess, I guess State Farm goes last.
I agree.
But the real toss-up, in my opinion, the real is will Farmers or Allstate go first?
That's where I'm at. Who, if you were a betting man, who would you say?
It's hard. It's very hard. I would guess Farmers, but I would not be
really
either way.
So I'm probably leaning towards Allstate.
Okay.
And and I think it's like their acquisition of National General, I think, was brilliant. So you have National General, Encompass, they have Esurance, and then Allstate. They're already offering Allstate to their independent agents, right? Farmers at least are still exclusive. So, and then if you look at Allstate's model overall, I think like 5 years ago they had something like 12 or 13,000 agents nationwide. They're down to 8,000, right? They're not looking to keep the exclusive model, like they're not pushing it the same way that they were years ago. And so I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Farmers beats them to the punch. I mean, they just acquired MetLife for similar reasons, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Allstate's the next one to say, "Hey, thanks for everything. Time to make that transition to independence."
The model just doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. And like especially when you're competing on technology, right? With some of the InsurTech that's out there and the new technologies getting released, I mean, that's the tough part is, Allstate's, bought NatGen and they're rolling out on the NatGen platform, right? So, they bought a technology, now they're rolling out this technology that, that maybe still doesn't allow you to quote homeowners through EasyLinks, for example. So, so they've got to find solutions to some of these problems, right? But if the new products do work, I mean, I can see Ben going, Allstate going first, but it is a toss up, but something's got to give, right? Because they've got to catch the vision, because they're just going to keep either losing agents or keep losing business.
I saw it happen at Nationwide. So I grew up at Nationwide. I was never an agent, but I grew up at Nationwide. I did claims, I did underwriting. I went through a leadership development program, and when I was going through a leadership development program, I'm not a numbers guy. It was a finance leadership development program. I'm not a numbers guy. But it was pretty clear. The exclusive channel was the cash cow, and they had bought Allied like 15 years before, and at that point, Allied and Nationwide had the same product, just with different distribution, and it quite clearly it had to be done. It was long past time that they went independent. So I don't know Allstate and Farmers from the inside the way that I knew Nationwide, but yeah, it's only a matter of time. And then State Farm will take a long time because they're just so gigantic. So thank you guys for coming on the show. When it goes live, I will tag you on LinkedIn. Very interesting to learn about the model, and very impressive that you've been able to pull it off to get that many preferred carriers to play along with not having specific requirements for each
branch
agency.
Yeah. No, it's a special thing. We love it.
So thank you for coming. Look forward to see you guys continue to grow.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tony.